The Jewish story, this week's story from the Holocaust, is taken from the book The Survivor, an inspiring true story written by Jack Eisner. Suddenly I heard many voices of men, women and children. I ran into the nearest building, climbed the stairs to the attic, crossed the roof and descended into an adjoining courtyard on Mila Street. The yard was filled with Jews. I was overjoyed to find so many still alive, but my happiness was short-lived. Only minutes later, SS troops and Ukrainians appeared. Cursing and shouting orders, they began driving everyone out of the yard with their rifle butts. I turned and tried to flee the way I'd come, but my path was blocked by the SS. I'd risked my life to get here, now I was trapped again. The SS had sealed off 2 whole blocks of Mila Street from Zamenhofer to Smocha. Troops were patrolling the sidewalk, while the Jews were being herded into the gutter. I soon discovered what was going on. Now that most of the Jews had been sent to the death factories, the Germans were liquidating the ghetto's once most privileged class, the people who held the coveted special exemption cards. They were mainly Jewish police, Judenrat employees, cemetery workers and other collaborators. They had done the dirty work for the Germans, and now they were no longer needed. Their turn had come. The Germans had called this privileged, in inverted commas, area of the ghetto the boiler. It was a private SS joke, for this was where they planned to boil the good Jews. But now that I was standing among them, I didn't know whether to rejoice at seeing these sons of bitches getting what they deserved, or to regret that the last of Warsaw's Jews were being gathered for their final trip. I walked around witnessing scenes of torment. Distraught mothers were trying to comfort hysterical children, well-dressed men were arguing with each other about whom to blame. Elderly women were huddling together, looking feeble and pathetic. Most of the police had already discarded their caps and uniforms. An overwhelming feeling of guilt was hanging in the air. I was sure I could touch it if I tried. I listened to a desperate argument between a young man and his wife. The woman was screaming at her husband, "You're no good. You deserve the Umschlagplatz. You thought my mother wasn't good enough to hide with us. Now we're all here, even you, Mr. Big Shot." The man, a former police lackey, was weeping. "I just tried to save you and the children." He fell to his knees and held on to his twins. Nearby I saw a Yamnik trample his police cap and strike his head with his club. "Mama, Mama," he screamed. "Forgive me. I was so stupid, so selfish." Blood was streaming down his face, but he continued to rant and rave. "No, I can't live. I shouldn't live. I don't deserve to live." Finally I grew weary of pushing my way through the mass of people. I lay down in the gutter among all the other wretched human beings and dozed off into a troubled sleep. A burst of machine fire and an SS alarm clock awakened everyone at dawn. A squad of Germans was setting up tables at the corner of Mila and Zamenhofer streets. I moved closer through the mob of people to see what was happening. The Jews from the boiler were being marched off somewhere to the left in the direction of the Umschlagplatz. At the same time, a selection was taking place. A bespectacled, middle-aged SS officer using a whip was directing some of the healthy young men to the right, away from the Umschlagplatz. "Los, schnell, alles rechts!" A number of screaming SS men were hurrying the bulk of the bewildered men, women and children off to the left, pushing, shoving and beating them with rifle butts and whips. The cruelty showered on these formerly privileged Jews was unmatched by any I'd previously seen. Now more than anything I wanted to be tapped by the selecting SS man's whip, to be directed away from the Umschlagplatz. I knew in my heart and all the others were going off to their deaths. I feared the cattle cart depot, but I was ready for it. I had the gun and I intended to use it at the right moment. I was way up front now, anticipating the moment of decision when I felt the SS man's whip pass over my hair. Simultaneously, someone grabbed my arm and yanked me to the right. I was standing with those chosen, to remain behind. I watched as the other Jews were marched off to the railroad sidings. Please pass on this story.